All right, it's that time of year again. New version of Octopus is available. 2024.4 is now out, and I've got Bob here to help talk about it. Bob, how are you?
I am doing great. My team won last night, so I'm in a great mood, and I get to talk about Octopus Deploy and all the new features, so I'm even a better mood then.
Which team is that? The Utah Hockey Club?
That's right. Yeah, it's
Nice.
aptly
Yeah,
named.
that's right. So Bob and I are hockey fans, so we like to keep up with the NHL. But that's not what we're here. We're here to talk about 2024.4. So we've got some new features in the latest version of Octopus. You can read more about these at octopus.com/what's new. And we're going to talk about each of these. Git triggers. Bob's going to talk about the new deployment pipeline. We've got prioritized deployments, OpenTelemetry, and we'll finish off with some new features in the Go CLI. So let's go ahead and get started talking first about Git triggers. So let's move over to my environment here. I have a space set up and I've got a git trigger set up on this. So basically what this allows you to do is set up a new type of monitoring for changes that happen in git. So anytime you have a change in git against a file like a config file or even a project file, that's part of your deployment pipeline, you can actually create releases and start deployments when any update is made. So let me show you how that works. So inside my project here called Git monitoring, or this is my space Git monitoring, I've got this project Git repository triggers. If I go to the triggers section here, you can see I have a trigger listed. Let's see how that looks. If I go ahead and click on add trigger, you can see we have this new trigger type called Git repository. Now to set this up is pretty easy. You simply give it a name. Then you list a channel that you're going to watch, and then you can click on one or two trigger sources. So I have two that are set up here, one for an OIDC demo, another one for a test workflow. These are just sort of the canonical hello world demos. And if you take a look at what I've done here, you can see I've done a previous example of this using these triggers here. But basically what I'm doing is I'm setting this up so that whenever I make a change to this, this will go ahead and run this script step. So let's go ahead and make a change. So I'll go over to the OICD demo, and you can see I've just been putting some updates in here. Hello from Bob, because I like to get Bob
Awesome.
involved. We'll get those committed. And now what happens here is the trigger itself will watch for changes. It will happen every 3 minutes. It's not instantaneous, but it will watch it every 3 minutes. And when a new one occurs, you'll see it listed here. So what I'll do is I'll switch over to Bob now, and we'll come back to this after the fact to see that release has been done.
Before you do that, one thing I did want to point out is that it looks like that your lifecycle doesn't have automatic deployments set up for your dev environment.
No, it does not.
So, so all this is doing is just creating that release. It's not doing the
Yes,
actual deployment. So if you want to do the actual deployment, you have to turn on that automatic deployment in
that's
that
right.
lifecycle phase. Yep.
That is correct. Actually, I'm going to refresh here to see if we get lucky. If there's a zero, no,
Yeah.
there's. I'm not
No,
not
not
yet.
yet.
Every
Yeah.
3 minutes it watches. So, anyways, all right, Bob, over to you.
Awesome. Yep. So one thing I'm really excited about is this concept that we've introduced called the deployment timeline. Now, in previous versions of this task screen, you probably saw the previous deployments occur somewhere probably right around here. And that was okay, but it only show you like the last three or four. And it really didn't give you a chance to action any of those. So in this particular environment for this particular project, I've done a lot of deployments, as you can see. So you can see all the
Nice.
deployments that have occurred. Yes. And one of the really cool things is this shows you not just which deployments were successful, it will also show you if there's any sort of failures, if there's any sort of cancellations or anything like that. But what makes me super excited about this is that I can very easily click on the hamburger or the overflow menu, and I can go ahead and I can redeploy that particular release to this particular environment in the event that something has gone wrong. And so this gives me that type of flexibility of being able to go back if I have, I just pushed out a new code version to my test environment and caused all kinds of havoc. And I just want to go back so I can get back to a known good state. It allows me to do something like that really, really quickly. So this was, I think this was something that was put together by one of our engineers during our sharpening time. But it's turned out to be super useful as I started using it more and more. I also love the
Yeah.
ability to go into and view the task log for that particular deployment
Mm.
if it exists.
Yep, yep. So you can do redeployments, you can deploy to new environments, you can even
Yep.
delete deployments and view, as Bob said, the task log all within this new timeline, which is awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited by this new view. It's just one of those things. It's one of those nice quality of life changes that are made that can really make your life hopefully a little bit better.
Fantastic. All right, getting back to the previous demo, the
Yeah.
the release was created, so there's 007. As Bob mentioned, I don't have automatic release creation or anything associated with my life cycle, but I am creating new releases based on changes in Git. So there you go. All right, so let's jump now back. We've gone and talked about Git triggers. We talked about the new deployment timeline. Let's now focus our attention on prioritized deployments. Bob, what's this all about?
Yeah. So one of the challenges that is typically faced by a number of our customers is oftentimes you have deployments that might be super important. So if, for example, if I were to go back to my project screen right here, and I could see here in my pet shop that I had, hopefully I've had some failures. I've had this one failure that's occurred. And
Right.
I want to be able to redeploy this, or I want to push up the latest change so I can get this to start working. So I go ahead and click on this, and I'm going to go ahead and click on deploy. And one of the new options that we've allowed is now you can pick priority. So I can go ahead and say that this now, in the next time that you pick up something from the queue, treat this as a high priority item. So this is perfect for those situations where you have an emergency bug fix that you're trying to get through and you just want to skip the line and make sure that no matter what, you get pushed out there. So I can go ahead and click on deploy. And that's really good for those ad hoc type of deployments that you might run into where this is an emergency fix and I need it to go out right away. But you might also have rules in place where you say, you know what, production should take
Mm,
precedence over everything else. John, I'm sure you
mm.
probably ran into that as well when you were a
Of
developer.
course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like why is deployments to production? Why is it stuck behind a deployment to dev? Well, no longer. So if I come
Mm,
into my life cycle and I expand out this particular phase, I can say that this phase is now a priority. And so any
I like it.
deployments to this, yes, are now is now taken into account. And I'm not 100% sure, I haven't tested this quite yet, but I believe I think the deployments that you mark in individual deployments would take priority over this priority, but I wouldn't try to, like, game the system too much on this. It's just a way of just moving something into the task queue as fast as possible. So the reason why this could be important is that, any Octopus deploy instance has a finite number of tasks that it can process concurrently. And so what this is doing is it's just basically saying the next thing that I pick up to process, I'm just trying to determine what is the next thing I need to start processing. It's not going to impact anything that's running actively. So if I were to trigger another deployment as a priority and I had all this, my task cap completely filled, it wouldn't pick that up until one of these other releases was completed or canceled.
Very nice. I like
Yeah.
it. If you want to read more about this, you can check out Susan's blog post entitled Prioritizing Deployments, where she goes into great detail about what we've done around this. So you can see that she's talking a little bit about prioritizing deployments when creating a new one and also prioritizing an environment in a life cycle phase. So the things that Bob was just talking about there. This is a new feature in 2020.4 and should help you manage your deployments going forward, which is awesome. And now, Bob, we've got improved audit capability, a streaming capability via OpenTelemetry.
Yeah, absolutely. So for our enterprise customers, one of the features that they get is the SIEM streaming for the audit log. So for anyone who's curious, if you go to the audit screen, there's an option that we can click on Stream Audit Log. Now you can see that I
Ah,
already have Sumo Logic already created. And we've also supported Splunk for quite some time. But one of the new features we've added is OpenTelemetry, where we can now start sending these audit logs into anything that's an telemetry creator. Now, a couple of things that I want to point out is that oftentimes your collector might have some different ways that you might want to authenticate. So you might want to authenticate where you send in the token inside of the URL, or you might do it in a bearer token, or you might do that in some sort of header. Well, if you pop the secret, because almost all of these have secrets, here it's encrypted. And then when it does the streaming for you, you can say, I want it to do uh, you know, this, and I want to use the secret placeholder for this particular URL. So if I put in uh, this Octo stash in with my URL, it will automatically replace it with the secret. Same thing with the header. Same thing with anything along those lines. So super easy. Hopefully, it makes it a lot easier. Really opens up the door for a lot of different SIEM integrations, which makes it uh, super powerful in this sense. One of the other things I wanted to point out before I forgot is that if you've been paying attention, we've been adding more and more audit entries into the audit log. John, actually, right before we started recording, we were trying to debug what was happening with the Go CLI, and we actually got
Yes.
to see the authentication failures now in the audit entry. We can also see login attempts and login, like successful logins, and the IP address and everything along those lines. So we're adding more and more of this audit entries. So get on board with the SIM integration so it starts logging to your Splunk, your Sumo Logic, or anything like that.
Fantastic stuff. Yeah, OpenTelemetry support is great. For those who don't know what OpenTelemetry is, it's basically a framework. It's also a toolkit. It's designed and enabled to be vendor and platform agnostic, and allows you to basically do all the traces, metrics, and logs that we all know and love. So awesome stuff. And then wrapping things up in 2024.4, we've got a better experience with the Go CLI. In particular, we have some new commands around build info, project enabling and disabling, channels, packages, and project variables. So I'm going to go ahead and do the magic of software, switch over to my terminal window, and you can see I've got the CLI. Oops, if I could spell, I've got the CLI built in here, and you can see we've got the nice ASCII art going, so you know it's
And
a real CLI. And for
and
those who
and
have never seen,
let's say
go
fun
ahead.
fact, John, you created that as well. That the ASCII
That's
art in
right.
that CLI, right?
Hey, come on. I don't
Yeah,
want to brag. All right. So yeah. So the ASCII art, it's like a true CLI. So if you haven't
yeah,
seen the CLI before, this is our replacement for Octo, which people have used in the past, but it's a far more powerful CLI. So just to give you a sense of what's available in here, so you can actually do a thing like, so I can walk in here, I can say, space, and we'll give you a detailed list of commands. This is different than Octo, where it would just fall on the floor and say, error, you didn't
yeah,
provide enough parameters. In fact, you can actually go in here and even do some commands here. I can see all my spaces that are running. I can list also my projects if I wanted. One thing that I can do here is if I want to create a project, for example, I don't give it enough commands. That's okay. We'll walk you through what's called interactive mode. And this will say, okay, listen, you're not in automated mode. You're in a human mode. You're dealing with a human here because you didn't provide all the parameters. So we'll walk you through this. So I can say, I want to create a new project called foo. We don't have a specified lifecycle. Don't have a group. So we'll give it a default group. I don't want to use config as code. And there we go. There's my new space that I've created. Now, if I want to see this, I can actually just take this URL here and I can jump over into my browser, and you can see there is my new project that I've created from the CLI. So what's new in the new CLI, or the new replacement CLI? We've got the ability to enable and disable projects, for example. So I can walk up to a project and see the ones that are listed. I can see I've got website, backend database, and foo. Let's go ahead and disable one of those, and we'll just disable the foo project now. So if I jump back into my instance that I had previously, and you jump into my project group, you can see, I disabled foo. So make sure we disabled the right one. I did this before. I disabled the backend database.
yep.
Which ones are enabled and disabled? I've got my backend database is now disabled, which is the one I disabled. Oh, the foo one is
It's
the one
brand
that
new,
I
so
just created. That's right.
yeah,
Sorry. My
yeah.
apologies. And so if I want to, I can actually, why did this one not? Oh, that's an interesting behavior. We'll see this. So we'll disable this one. This one got it disabled. Let's see if we can re-enable it here. So we'll say enable. If I can type. This is always the fun thing about these demos.
Nothing like doing
Backend
it live.
database. No, I know. That's right. So if we enable that and refresh, there it is. It's now been
There we go.
enabled, which is awesome.
Nice.
So yeah, these and other commands you can now run. So jumping back to the what's new, we've got commands associated with build info. Very important, obviously, when you're doing your commits. Project enabling and disabling, channel creation, package deletion, and project variables deletion as well, which is important. If you want to learn more, you can go to our repo page, which is at /CLI. There you'll see the source code. It's all built in Go. Awesome environment to work with. If you want to get a sense of what's available there, you can check out our README, which is great. And this is available via Homebrew, apt-get, Chocolatey. I'm trying to remember the other ones as well. It's multi-platform, so we support Windows, Mac, Linux, etc. So you can get it in a variety of ways. There's the command for Chocolatey. There's the command for Winget, etc. So Awesome stuff. Well, there you go, Bob. 2024.4 is now available down for you to download and check out yourself. So great stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, John. It was great to get a chance to do a quick lap around all the new features.
I know kicking the tires is always fun. All
Yeah, it
right,
is.
everyone, take care. Happy deployments, everyone.
Happy deployments.